Everybody, and welcome back to another edition of To The Point Podcast. Everybody's doing well today. We are Tuesday, June. I'm going to say January. I'm glad it's not January. June 21st, the first day of summer, which I did not know until about 10 minutes ago. But I was thinking, oddly enough, last night I was watching games. It was late enough. And I'm looking outside. I'm like, wow, it's pretty light outside. And then, of course, today's the longest day of the year, so that means daylight longer. So I'm looking forward to that. I mean, it's a day that you think about, and it's so bittersweet because it just goes down from here. It gets darker outside and darker, and then we get closer to the fall where that is just brutal. But first day of summer, I hope that means the weather's going to improve because the weather's been, pardon my French, shit for the last little while. But hey, first day of summer, that might mean something to some people. Doesn't mean much to me. It's kind of knowing these certain dates. That's a job in and of itself. Like somebody's like, well, I remember going on Google one day and it just says, well, happy donut day. I didn't know donuts had a day. I didn't know there's all these days why is that a day? Why is there a National Socks Day? Or National Hot Dog or Hamburger Day? Why? Who thought of all the problems we have in this world? We think enough that we can have a day for a hot dog? Maybe I shouldn't have started the show like this today, but that's what comes into my brain. I just think why these days? Why is there a start of summer? Why doesn't it just go forever? Why is that just continuous? If we can have a National Hot Dog Day, is there a way that we can change the ecosystem that just gets rid of winter forever? And I'm serious. Is that something that we can, the listeners, definitely not me, because I'll won't help. I'll find a way to screw it up. I'll make winter go longer. Is there a way that we could have just summer throughout the whole world? Can we have Florida's climate here? Can we figure that out? Instead of, hey guys, let's make sure on September blank, it's National Throw a Frisbee Day. Let's figure out, and there's much bigger things that we could change in the world, but that's something I would endorse. It's just a day that, hey, that actually does something or something worthwhile that would benefit me primarily. I think it would benefit other people. I hope. I don't want to be completely selfish, although I will be if I have to. But if we could do that to help the world, but mostly Noah, and I think other people would jump on board, isn't that a better solution? Isn't that better than National Hot Dog Donut Day? I don't know. Just a thought. What a way to start the podcast. As you can see, this program is already in progress, and we got a lot to get into today. It's Tuesday. Shamus will join me as always in a little bit. We'll talk about a number of different things. We'll get into his Celtics going down, get his kind of reaction. Another one of Shamus's teams bites the dust and can't win a title, but they got very close. Looks promising for the Celtics. Going to get into the NHL last night and also what the top athletes of 2022. And that's something I've been thinking about. I messaged him the other day, and we're about halfway through the calendar year. Who are the best athletes of the year thus far? Who's playing the best? Those kind of narratives, those kind of questions, that is what we're going to try to answer today. I got a few names written down. I'm curious to see where Shamus goes with this, and we'll put it all together. But let's start with the Stanley Cup Final, Game 3 last night. And it's a good day because if you listen to me, I told you to make a bet last night. I'm not always right, and I've been telling you about my losing bets lately. Didn't win on the weekend in golf. Didn't win with the Rangers a while back. Although I did pick the Lightning, but I forget what game it was. Anyway, I had a loss down there too. But I said last night, Tampa is the pick. Tampa is the team you pick tonight. And I said Vasilevsky, that was on FanDuel. You can get Vasilevsky -2.5 goals against. So If you can go under 2.5 goals for the game, that's a winner with a Tampa win. That's exactly what happened last night. So it's a winner for me. Hopefully it's a winner for you if you're listening to me. And obviously that's not the biggest deal here. The series is now 2-1. We have a series again. And it was an interesting game because if you just look at the box score, Tampa won the game 6-2, but you look at it and you say, well, why did Tampa win? Because they got outshot 39-22. They didn't have possession. Colorado had more power plays. So you're looking at the game saying, well, how could Tampa have won this game? But that's why you have to watch the game, and you can look at the box score after to find stats, whatever you want to justify certain thoughts, opinions, what have you. But last night, Tampa I thought from the drop of the puck, brought a different energy that they didn't have in Colorado. And playing at home, I think, helped. But we saw in the last series, we saw Tampa against the Maple Leafs in that pivotal Game 4, in that pivotal Game 6. They play their best when they have to. This season, this Tampa team has kind of eased their way into series. They've allowed teams to get 2-0 series lead. They've allowed teams to get other teams to believe that we have this series won, and then Tampa jumps up like a python at the very last second to snatch up your dinner. And they did it in the first 3 rounds. Florida, the only opposing team to do that, and the only opposing series. The other 2, it was just the same script. And last night, I thought they brought it. And you could look at Colorado and say Colorado played their worst game of the series, which I wouldn't disagree with. Colorado in the first 2 games, I think the best thing they did was control the neutral zone. They had constant puck pressure. They didn't allow Tampa to get through the neutral zone clean. You tried to make a pass. You tried to skate. They had somebody on you. It was like hot potato or a metal. It was like a magnet where somebody is always on your ass. You could not move. You couldn't make a play because you were constantly panicked. You had the puck. You didn't know what to do with it. Last night, Tampa had a much easier time getting through the neutral zone. They had a much easier time getting past the defenseman. You saw it on the first goal of the game. Cirelli got the puck. He didn't face much opposition going to the net, and he finds a way to poke that past Darcy Kuemper. It was a effort goal. It definitely was not skill. It was a goal Darcy Kuemper should stop 100 out of 100 times, but that's irrelevant. It's the way that he got to that position that was different in the first 2 games. Another thing, I said it yesterday. Darcy Kuemper's a good goalie. He's not a great goalie. The guy at the other end, he's the great goalie. He's the superstar. He's the Mount Rushmore guy. What did Tampa do last night? They got Darcy Kuemper moving. On the Stamkos Palat give and go goal, that was a play where Palat had it on the right hash. He moves all the way over. Stamkos has it where he goes to the left. Stamkos is on the right, and Darcy Kuemper has to move all the way across his body. He can't make the save. We saw it later in the game. Nick Paul scores. They're constantly moving. They're constantly shifting. And when you're asking a goalie who has been injured frequently, who is adequate to be extraordinary, it's not going to go that well for you. It's not going to result in great things. And they only had 22 shots, but they had 10 high-quality scoring chances. Tampa had 8 high-quality scoring chances in the first 2 games. And high-quality scoring chances are in close to the net, in the blue paint, a great scoring opportunity. Basically, everywhere other than when Artemi Panarin hangs out, that's a high-quality scoring chance. But it was just a different energy. They approached the game different. And for Colorado, when it comes to their offense, they didn't bring much. That was high danger. We've seen Tampa get outshot. The Rangers outshot them in games 3 and games 4. And games 4 and games 5. Game 3, Tampa outshot them in a wide margin with that great third period. But in particular, game 4, New York outshot Tampa. But they were all from the outside. They were all perimeter. They weren't high-quality scoring chances. So those aren't difficult saves. Andrei Vasilevskiy finished the night with 37 stops. A great game for him, no doubt. But it wasn't particularly taxing because Colorado 5-on-5 was not generating what they did in the first two games. And a big shift in the game was the coach's challenge, which I hate the coach's challenge. I follow some referees on Twitter who say that the coach's challenge, you just want to get it right. I get that, although I think you get it wrong a lot too, Tim Peel. But I look at the grand scheme. I want to get the call right. And I don't want to do another rant about this because I've done it so many times, but it continues to come up and it bothers me to no end. Could you get it right in 90 seconds? Could you get it right in 60? So if we have to do it, which I'm never going to accept, but I'll accept it right now, could we do it in a shorter period of time? Because I flipped over. I'm not sitting there watching the coach's challenge. When I came back to the screen, the goal had been called off. I'm not sitting there for the whole time. Wait, I've done that. I'm done with that. There's more sports on TV. There's other things I can watch. I flipped to the Memorial Cup, and I was so tired from the night before, but that game nearly put me to sleep, which we'll touch on in a bit. But if that didn't happen, if there was something interesting on, I might have forgot about the game because I'm not sitting through that. I'm not sitting through John Cooper getting 20 minutes to review the play. It seemed like that. They're ready to drop the puck, and they're like, no, we saw a different angle. Come back. There has to be a stopwatch. There's a concussion spotter. If we're going to review every play, if it's going to be a face-off where you have to review who won it and this crap, can we have somebody to say, no, your time's up. Coop, what do you want to do? It's a gut check decision. You don't get 80,000 looks. This isn't the fucking video room. Make a decision and live with it. These coaches are like indecisive people. I can't stand those type of people. Tell me what you want to do. Let's do it. I don't know what I want to eat. Okay. Then don't eat. I don't know if that's a goal. I don't know if it is. Well, guess what? Next play. Let's go. Shut up. When you look after the game, you know what it is. That's how it has to be. If you're going to keep it, which I'm not in favor of, it has to be quicker. It has to be. Because it got so much longer because Coop took 2 minutes to look at it. And I like Coop. I don't want to put him down. But every coach does this. But you take 2 minutes to look at it. And then it's 10 minutes when you're looking at the screen, 80,000 angles. And why do the ones that seem so easy take the longest time to figure out? It was clearly out of the zone. And if it was up to me, Nikushkin should have got a goal for it. Because, yes, it was offside. I'm not saying that. But I wouldn't have reviewed it anyway. There was a fucking linesman from, I'm not that far from the screen here, me to you away, and he didn't see it. Do we need robotic people? I'm not in favor of robotic umps in baseball. In hockey, we might. Just have somebody out there. Have a little robot, and you blows a whistle when it's offside. Because of how many reviews these guys need, they're not that great at their job. But there's my frustration on that because I don't get it. But for Colorado, they get 2 power play goals last night. Gabriel Landeskog gets both. But 5-on-5, they didn't bring the same energy. They didn't have that same bounce. Burakovsky was out of the lineup. He's banged up. But I look at the Avs, and there's a guy that game 4, and we'll preview the game tomorrow. And actually, I'm going to the Memorial Cup on Thursday, as I told you guys. I plan to do a podcast Wednesday night after the game. I'm hoping I will, unless I get so tired that I can't do it. But I'm going to watch the game, rush over here, and do a quick recap of the game because I want to do that because I won't be able to on Thursday because I got to drive to St. John and get ready for Shawinigan Hamilton. But that's tomorrow night, Thursday morning. There'll be a podcast tomorrow afternoon like there is today. I'm just saying we might do that Wednesday night. I plan to anyway. But 5-on-5, Colorado didn't bring a whole lot. And there's a guy who hasn't had a great series. They're up 2-1, so it kind of goes under the radar. Nathan MacKinnon doesn't have a goal yet in this series. He's been really quiet. He's played okay, but he needs game 4 is the game where he needs to come out. Because Nikushkin's played as good as he's going to play. Rantanen's played fantastic. Makar's playing well. Like, guys that you aren't expecting have had good series. Alex Newhook, depth pieces have had very good series so far. You're the big cat. You're the main dog. It's on you to bring this home, to get some energy in this series, to get a victory. We haven't seen that from Nathan MacKinnon yet. He didn't even have a great game last night. There's a lot of guys in Colorado who would have liked to have better games, for sure. On the back end, I didn't think Manson had his best game. Eric Johnson didn't have a great game last night. But you have game 4 to rebound. But fair warning to Colorado. Don't you let Tampa win tomorrow night. Colorado is a better team than New York. They're better than Toronto. However, in crunch time, in clutch time, there is no team better than the Tampa Bay Lightning. If anybody has an opposite opinion to that, I really don't understand it, because one team's won the last 2 cups and the other 31 haven't. They are the best team in the big moments. If this series is tied 2-2 going back to Colorado, the people in Colorado aren't going to be singing all the small things. I'll tell you that, because it's going to be panic mode. So it was great before because you got a 2-0 lead, your touchdown on Tampa. If it goes back 2-2, there's going to be a few asses that are tight on that Colorado bench before game 5. Because they know if we lose tonight, it's over. It's over in Tampa. So tomorrow is the most important game of the season for Colorado. It is. Game 2 is huge to win for Colorado. Huge. But you won 2 home games. Great. You're supposed to. You're supposed to win at home, right? You cover your home ice. You go from there. You lose tomorrow night and you go back home. You got all that pressure in game 5 because you got home ice. You need to protect Ball Arena. Tampa just finds the way to win that game. They normally do. I advise Colorado to win tomorrow night in a big way. We'll talk about this more tomorrow. But to Tampa Bay, what I find so impressive is Tampa wins last night and Braden Point can't even play. Braden Point was hobbling through game 2. He didn't have enough to go last night. It's already reported today. It's highly doubtful that he plays in game 4. So Riley Nash was reinserted into the lineup. And we saw a little bit of a mismatch of lines. Patrick Maroon took shifts with Stamkos. They moved some guys around. And I credit Coop for doing that because the first 2 games, they didn't generate a whole lot. And he did keep Cirelli with that shutdown line, which I didn't think he would, although that line did find a way to score a goal. Cirelli was only his second of the postseason. Killorn has no goals. Hagel has 2, but they have been doing a good job shutting down that top line. So kudos to them. But you look at it, it's who turned it around in game 3. When they had to win that game, it was Stamkos, Palat, and Kucherov who delivered. Last night, Stamkos has 2 points. Kucherov has 2 points. Palat has 2 points. That line is their clutch line. They show up in the big moments when you need them the most. You also get Nick Paul chip in with a goal. Like I said, Cirelli finds the back of the net. They had other guys score goals, but it's this line that's been there for them the entire playoff. And this line is going to be pivotal again because Cirelli's line is likely not going to score many goals in this series because they're going up against MacKinnon. They can line match in game 4, and their job is to stop the opposition's top unit from scoring. They know that going in. The third line with no Braden Point, you got Nick Paul. Ross Colton hasn't scored in 11 games, so he's on a cold streak. So that line isn't firing on all cylinders either. So then we get to the fourth line where Perry jumps up, Maroon jumps up on shifts. But these guys, again, it's not a high quality scoring line. So that line has all the pressure on them to deliver, to score goals. The back end, like I said yesterday, needs to help, and it did. Victor Hedman had 2 points last night. He had his best game of the series. But with no Braden Point, Tampa needs to be perfect. This line needs to play A+ the rest of the series in order to win. That's a lot of pressure, but I think they can handle it because they've done it all playoffs long, where they've been asked to do everything. Because Point didn't have a great start to the postseason. Then he gets hurt when he's just starting to play better. And since coming back, he clearly is not 100% healthy because he can't go. And at the end of the game, Kucherov was in skirmishes. He took a big hit. Perry was involved physically. And Cooper said today, both guys are likely going to play tomorrow in Game 4. I don't think that was ever a worry. In particular with these two guys who, Corey Perry's he's the worm. He's a veteran. He's a pain in the ass. He's been to the last 3 Stanley Cups. He's lost the first 2. He's looking to finally win one, to break that curse for himself after being in Dallas, being in Montreal, and now being a member of the Tampa Bay Lightning. And for Kucherov, he's one of their best players, but he's also just a tough son of a bitch. He likes playing hockey. I imagine he played last night. He's a little battered and bruised, but he goes back to his home or to the hotel and has a few beer, and he just walks it off. That's how I think he approaches it this time of year. But it was an entertaining game last night. It was a good battle, and depth could prevail because Colorado does have more depth that you trust to score goals, for sure. Where you look at Kuemper, Newhook, guys like this can step up. Nikushkin's not a top player, although he's playing on the top line, and you could argue that he is. But these depth pieces have already stepped up. Now for Tampa, you look and say, well, Nick Paul scored a goal last night. Does he score a goal the rest of the series? Patrick Maroon and Corey Perry both score goals last night. Can these guys continue to find a way to have an impact on the series? That's where I look at this. Cirelli, can he bring something to the table offensively? Although he's playing against McKinnon. So it's a tough ask for this guy to really produce a whole lot. But I'm impressed with Tampa's resolve. I'm impressed with Tampa's fight last night. If there's no challenge, maybe it's a different game. Because Colorado would have had a power play following the challenge. They did score in their first power play of the game. So maybe it's 2-0 out of the gate, Colorado on the road, and it's completely different. Because with that lead, Colorado would have played differently. But Cirelli tied it up on a goal that they'd want back, Darcy Kuemper. And then not too long lately, Palat scores, and Tampa has the lead going into the intermission. So Kuemper gets pulled last night. He needs to be better. He needs to make saves. Again, he's getting moved around. He's not a great goalie, and they do need to defend better in front of him, which they're very capable of doing in Colorado. But you're an unrestricted free agent. You have a great series. You can turn this into a massive payday for yourself where you don't have to worry. You're a starting goaltender, and you might be average to below average the rest of your life, but you have a contract that validates you, that you're set up. If he doesn't have a good cup final and he's been injured throughout, because I wouldn't call this a statement playoff for Darcy Kuemper so far, because Francouz played the last 3 games against Edmonton. He got hurt against Nashville. He didn't close out that series. He's only played in 1 closeout game in the Stanley Cup playoff so far, and that was Game 6 against the Blues. The other 2 series, Pavel Francouz had to win the deciding game. So basically what he's proved so far in the postseason is that he's an average goaltender, which I think we all thought before, and that he's not durable, which we all thought before. And what bodes well for him is that's basically what the goalie market is now, where there is no guy that you trust to play X number of games because guys are always hurt or they want to be in tandem situations for a myriad of reasons. But if he can have a good end to this playoff. He plays extremely well in game 4, game 5, 6, whatever, and Colorado wins a cup, he has a different narrative about him. He has a different perception where he's a champion and he's a goalie that won a Stanley Cup. And there'll be teams that look past that. He was on Colorado, a great team. I'll give you a case in point example. Antti Niemi won the cup in 2010 with the Chicago Blackhawks. Antti Niemi was not a great goalie. He was average, but he was on a great team that won a Stanley Cup. And he also looked a whole lot better because in the Stanley Cup final, Antti Niemi was going toe-to-toe with Michael Leighton, who to begin the playoffs was a black ace for the Philadelphia Flyers. But he wins a Stanley Cup. He's a champion, and he walks into unrestricted free agency with Corey Crawford pushing up the ranks for the Blackhawks. San Jose scoops him up. They sign him to, I think it was a 6-year or 7-year deal at the time for big money. A couple years later, they ended up buying him out. Sometimes it's just where you are at the time. You have a hot run. Cam Ward was great in 06. He was never as good as in 06 again. He never got back to that level. Cam Ward was a good goaltender, had a solid career, but he was never what he was in 06. In 09, he had a good season. He had a good run. But this can happen for goalies. Matt Murray was a good goaltender, and you're in the right place at the right time. You win a couple cups, and Matt Murray, he didn't play all that many games in the playoffs either, but he was there at the end, and you make a couple saves, you get another ring, you got a shine about you. People are saying, well, this guy's the number one goalie. This guy's the wave to the future. Now the Ottawa Senators would kill a couple nuns to get rid of Matt Murray's contract. So that's what Darcy Kuemper has in front of him. If I want to motivate this guy, I just point to these contracts and say, hey, you had a tough one last night, but bounce back. Look at Matt Murray's deal. Look at Antti Niemi. Look at these guys, and hey, maybe you'll have a great career. Doubt it. But look at these guys that won a cup and what happened to them. It changed their life. And they weren't good the rest of their career. Not even close. But guess what? They got that money. It's guaranteed. It's in their bank account still. And that might be a negative way to look at things here, but I think it's the realistic way. Because I don't see him being Vasilevsky. I don't see him beating Martin Brodeur, but could he be a guy that is average? Maybe that's the best case. He's an average goaltender the rest of his career. Well, Matt Murray and Antti Niemi were worse than average. I could see Darcy Kuemper being one of those two guys where he gets a big ticket somewhere from a desperate organization. I could think of one, and it doesn't go that well. Doesn't go that well for him, and in a couple of years he's bought out or his contract's traded and something happens. But motivation is a powerful drug. And if you're driven by money, if you're driven by wealth, if you're driven by whatever it is, hopefully it is money, because you can look at these two guys and say, look what your colleagues did. Look at these two guys had a run, and look what it turned into for them. And that might motivate what the hell is his name? Might motivate Darcy Kuemper to go be Antti Niemi, to finish this and then look up at the other teams, the scouts in the building, people there watching the cup final and saying, hey, look what I just did. Do you see what I accomplished this year? I won a Stanley Cup. Do you want to win one? Because I'm a Stanley Cup winning goaltender. I can definitively say that. Matt Murray flexed to the Ottawa Senators, and they said, you know what? We're going to give you an extra year, and we're going to give you an extra $1 million because we can't let anybody have you. And now he's still making that money, but he's playing in the American Hockey League. So Ottawa sells out for him. They throw assets. They sign him for big money. And I wonder if they regret it now. I wonder if they regret it now. I would think yes. Maybe I'm wrong, but I do think. But that is a way to look at what the situation for Darcy Kuemper moving forward. Game 4 goes tomorrow. I expect a good game. I expect a desperate Colorado Avalanche team, but we'll start to talk about that game tomorrow as we get closer. Stars announced Peter DeBoer as their head coach today. I've been talking about that for a little while, but it's finally official. 4-year deal, north of $4 million a year. Jay Woodcroft, I've mentioned this. He officially got introduced today as he's no longer the interim coach. He is the head coach of the Edmonton Oilers. So they got their bench boss. Every other opening is still there. There's nothing new to report. As we get that news, I will let you know. But there's nothing on the coaching front. No real rumors on players as of yet. So I think the league wants to get through the Stanley Cup final where that's the focus, and then players can start to move. You'll start to hear more about Johnny Gaudreau. You'll start to hear more about guys kicking tires, moving around, and what do teams want to do in the offseason? What's the outlook of the team? I think you'll start to hear Jacob Chychrun chatter. So expect to hear that over the next little while because free agency starts on July 13th. The Stanley Cup final will either end, it could end as soon as Friday in Game 5. It could end Sunday, that's Game 6, or Tuesday, which would almost be next week. But July's next week. We got after a couple weeks, about 3 weeks until free agency opens in the NHL. So that's when player movement is allowed. You're allowed to start talking to players. And I think there's a talking period a week before, but I'm interested to see what will happen if Johnny Gaudreau does not re-sign in Calgary. Do we see Calgary trade his rights over the next couple weeks, where they won't get a whole lot back, but they could also orchestrate a sign and trade, which a team wouldn't love to do because unless they're kind of cap strapped. But could there, does Calgary trade Gaudreau's rights to a team in order to at least get an asset back, to get a late round pick? That's something teams do. I'm curious to see if any teams decide to try to go that route prior to free agency. We're going to talk baseball here in a minute, but before we get there, some news today that I didn't expect to come across the wire this afternoon, but for the second time in his career, Rob Gronkowski, the great tight end, some would argue the greatest tight end to ever play football, announced his retirement. He's 33. He's a 4-time Super Bowl champion, multiple-time All-Pro, and he's done. He came back to play with Brady, did that for 2 years, won a Super Bowl with him 2 years ago. But he says he's heading back to retirement home. His body, he's been through a lot physically. He's always been injured throughout his career. He's had 4 back procedures. Said he could still play, but he doesn't want to go through the battering again, does not want to go through that physical toll and the mental as well. But I think the Bucs were holding out hope that he'd be back because they just had minicamp. They just had mandatory OTAs. He was not there, of course. You're all thinking, well, he's going to wait to sign as long as he can so he doesn't have to do all this crap. But he's done. So that's interesting spot for the Bucs, although they do have Cameron Brate still on the roster, who's a very suitable tight end. He's better right now than Gronk is. So it's not a demotion for sure, but it's just a security blanket for Brady to have Rob Gronkowski on a third down. You can go to Gronk. He's going to catch the ball, things of that nature. But you saw Tom Brady start to get rapport with Cameron Brate last year. It helped because Gronk was injured for half of the season. O.J. Howard was injured in week 2 coming off a torn ACL. So he had lots of time to he had to work with Cameron Brate because that's all that was on the field for tight ends. And that's great career. He's going to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame one day, no doubt about it. And, the second time he's retiring, I hope it's the last time that I have to talk about it when it comes to retirement. A very simple rule with athletes. When you retire, retire. If you want to keep playing, no problem with me. But don't come out of retirement 80 times. Don't be Brett Favre. When you just pick a lane. That's all I ask. You're either a player or you're retired. You're either a media member, you're one or the other. Richard Sherman, he's in this position now where he got signed on by Amazon to work for Amazon and do Thursday Night Football. But he still says he's holding out hope he finds a team to play with. Pick one. Because guess what? You're not going to be that great of an analyst. You're not going to be that great on TV if you're worried about your next NFL opportunity. Embrace what you're doing now. The best guys at their profession that do it, that's what they do. To me, when Ray Ferraro retired, he wasn't thinking, okay, when am I going to come out of retirement? Am I done playing? Am I going to continue to play hockey? No, he looked at the job at ESPN, at TSN. He mastered the craft, and now he's one of the best, color analysts in all of sports. Charles Barkley, his personality, the way he does it, he wasn't playing basketball again. He got approached to do TV. He kills it, and it's because he doesn't worry about it. He's got a I don't give a shit personality, but also it's I'm done playing basketball. I'm a member of the media, and if guys suck, I'll call them on it. Period. You can go through the list of guys. Greg Olson is great. He retired. Once he embraced it, he goes, I'm going to be great on TV. I'm going to be great at calling games. Tony Romo, you'd say he's a little too focused on golf. I think he's gotten worse in the booth as it's gone on. He used to predict plays to be better, but again, he wasn't the quarterback of the Cowboys anymore. That wasn't a possibility. Jerry Jones would have loved to brought him back, but Dak was there. It wasn't going to happen. So he embraced his position. He embraced what he was going to do. And, that's what needs to happen. You need to pick your profession. You can't be a professional athlete and be a member of the media, a color analyst, whatever the job is, at the same time. And pivoting into that, today, Sir Nick Faldo, the former great golfer, multiple-time major winner, and who's been on CBS, I read today in a statement, for 33 years, and I couldn't believe it, has announced that he's going to be retiring from doing full-time work at CBS. Nick Faldo he's an acquired taste. I have my love and hate for him when it comes to, shots and just kind of reaction to things. But he is a legend of the sport. Like I said, he's been at CBS for 33 years, been sitting in the booth with Jim Nantz. The two of them are synonymous together. And later in the year, it'll be his last event. He's going to be 65 in July, so he said that's a big part of it. And I can't blame him, but it's a big shoe to fill because he worked for the Golf Channel. He worked for CBS. Occasionally, he did NBC work for majors. He was a busy guy. He talked about being on the road a lot, staying in hotels, and it's true. Every week, there's another stop on the PGA Tour. It's constantly happening. There's always a tournament. There's always something happening, and Nick Faldo was going to these events. He would work from Thursday to Sunday. Jim Nantz only worked when it came on CBS. So Jim Nantz would work Saturday starting at 3 to 4 o'clock in the afternoon until 7, where Nick Faldo would come on 10, 11 in the morning and work the golf channel shift and then do CBS for 3 hours as well. So, and he just had a long grind. It is a grind. There's a lot of work to do. And, kudos to him. He's had a great career. He is a legend. He's been knighted, which not many people can say. We talk about two guys today, Charles Barkley and him. Both guys are. But, the PGA Tour will miss him because he's a great voice in the game. And I'm sure with Nick Faldo retiring, CBS would have loved to have scooped up Phil Mickelson to do this. Maybe they have a stopgap guy for a couple seasons. They throw a guy with Jim, Colton Nost or somebody like that, where he's in there for a couple years. And then when Phil wants to play the majors or he's getting tired of it, he's 51 now, say 2 years down the line, he goes, I might play some Champions Tour events every once in a while, but I got a good payday from CBS because they wanted Phil in the booth. They were dying to get Phil Mickelson in the booth because of his personality, because of just the way he approaches it, happy-go-lucky Phil. But now with everything with the LIV Tour going against the PGA, that's never going to happen. So I think the succession plan was very much cut completely because they don't have a guy that just pops to mind for me that you're dying to hear, that you're dying to see. Because NBC, who does do the Golf Channel, and they got two majors of the year. They got the U.S. Open and they got the British. They got a good core they got some good core guys. You look, they got Nota Begay Jr. the third. They got Steve Sands, who I really like, who was there. Paul Azinger, Dan Hicks. They got some good broadcasters. They're not going to go to CBS right away. CBS has Amanda Balionsis, who does interviews, but it's a big shoe to fill for sure. No pun intended on the fill. But I'm curious to see where they go from here when it comes to replacing Nick Faldo, who's in that booth with Jim Nantz, because for a long time it was Phil Simms with the NFL, and then Phil Simms got booted for Tony Romo. Well, now Nick Faldo's leaving under his own volition. Do they have a guy that they look at and say he's just a winner? We'd love to have him. John Daly would be fun. He'd never do it. I don't know if he'd be any good at the broadcasting, but it'd be fun just to hear John Daly talk about stories and what he got up to in his playing career and what he thought of some of these guys. I doubt that'll happen, but that's a guy that comes to mind. A guy in that vein for sure is I think exactly what you're looking for. But kudos to Nick Faldo on a great career. And I think he's going to be doing a spattering of events, but he may be like Vern Lundquist, where Vern will show up to do the Masters. And I'm wondering if Nick Faldo would do the same thing with golf, where he just shows up and he'll do the big events, and the rest of the year he's kind of on standby or in just a part-time capacity. But that was a loss for the PGA and for the world of golf today. And the PGA Tour lost another two high-profile names to the LIV Golf Tour. And those two names are Abraham Ancer, who is currently the 20th ranked golfer in the world, and the bigger name, the three-time major champion, Brooks Koepka. Koepka leaving for this tour is no surprise. His brother was already on the LIV Tour. Brooks has complained in the past about the PGA Tour, how he doesn't care about smaller events. I don't think Brooks Koepka loves golf. I think Brooks Koepka and Dustin Johnson, two guys that have defected to the LIV Tour, have that in common. I don't think either guy loves the sport, but they're both very good at it. I think both guys, if they could have been good enough to play football, play basketball, another sport at a high level, they would have chosen that sport. They wouldn't have played golf, but they're really good at it. They've both won majors. And now they look at it and say, we only got to play 8 to 10 times a year. There's so many events on the PGA. We don't got to play as much. We don't got to travel as much. Sounds like a lot better life, a happier life. So Koepka leaving is a big loss, but I think the PGA Tour was ready for this. Abraham Ancer, to me, Abraham Ancer and Taylor Gooch they're not big names leaving. I mean, Ancer is the 20th ranked player in the world. He's a very good player. But Gooch and Ancer leaving are interesting to me because they're both younger guys. They're both guys that have won PGA Tour events. Gooch won one this past year, and he's played in the LIV. So if this LIV Tour doesn't work out, where do they go from here? Is there a fear for them that they can't get back on the PGA Tour if this blows up? And that's where I look at them and say, I question it a little bit. I don't blame them for wanting more money. You also got to look at the situation and say, yes, it's a lot of money, but how long is this tour going to be alive? How sustainable is this business model? You have to do all that kind of pre-scout before you jump into bed with this rival organization. But with Ancer, with Koepka leaving, with DJ, all these guys defecting, what it does do is put the pressure on the PGA Tour to be better, to adapt. I mentioned this today to my parents. And even my father made this point to me, that he doesn't think any pro sport business, organization, however you want to frame it, has ever had any competition, has ever had any real competition, any kind of fire put under their ass. And I agree with him for the most part. And what I look at now is, well, what does the PGA Tour do to rectify this? What does the PGA Tour do to say, how are we going to address this? Because the LIV are getting guys, because the players think it's a better life to be on the LIV Tour than it is to play on the PGA Tour. So with that being said, can you get some guaranteed dollars? Can you get stipends to start? You got to give appearance fees, whatever it might be. But you have to adapt your business model. The NFL's players were getting fed up with how they were getting paid. What did they do? You're starting to see now in the NFL every year, there's more and more guaranteed contracts. Those were so foreign. They were never going to be handed out. It was a non-starter. Now they're everywhere. Defensive players are getting guaranteed contracts, getting guaranteed money out the wazoo. Why can't golf set this up? There's a reason you have all those sponsors. It's because you want them to pay you money. You want to pay your players to do this. If they're in bed with the PGA, RBC, all these, Waste Management, all these companies that are with your tour, well, you might have to say, hey guys, we're going to have to start the name, image, and likeness like there is in NCAA. We're going to need to start paying some of these golfers before they even take a swing, because otherwise they're going to be playing for the Saudi tour and Greg Norman. Because if you can show up to an event and already have $4 to $5 million in your jeans, no matter how you play, that sounds like a lot better experience for the player than showing up to an event where if you know you don't make the cut, you lose your tour card. There are guys that are in this position weekly. And when you have money stuffed in your shorts, that can make it not as competitive, potentially. But my pushback on that is, well, in hockey, all these guys have guaranteed contracts. And you're going to make your salary regardless. You hardly make any money in the playoffs. And yet these teams are playing their heart out. They're battling for every inch. Tampa and Colorado are beat to hell, but they're still playing. They're still finding a way to battle through games. So they already have a whole lot of money in their jeans. They play 82 games knowing that they're rich. Knowing that if they don't have a good game, they're still going to make that money. But yet the product's still pretty good. And yet people still seem interested. And the Stanley Cup playoff ratings are up 162% from last year. Read that last night from the mothership. We know what their salaries are. And yet it's still pretty competitive, and there still seems to be a big desire to win. So if the argument is, well, it won't be as compelling a product if they already have money before they start, simply not true, because every other sport has that. You know what you're making before the game. NFL, NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball. My idol, Dan Patrick, made this last week where he goes, it's funner when you're putting for $4 million. I hear you, Dan. But your favorite player, Steph Curry, is shooting threes. He's guaranteed to make over $40 million this year. So does that mean he has no pressure to make the shot? Or are you playing for the trophy, for the accolade? Because that always was first to me. Because the playoff money, the playoff share revenue that Golden State won, that Boston got, that Colorado, that Tampa's going to get is not a whole lot of money, especially for guys that make $40 million a year. It's basically, it's what you wipe your ass with, that type of money. And yet these guys are still playing their heart out. It's still pretty compelling. So if the PGA Tour adopts this model, which they should, people are still going to watch. People are still going to be interested. Because it's less about how much money they had before. It's about how much they care in spite of making that money. And they look at that trophy and say, wow, I want that. There's no stacks and stacks of bills inside the Stanley Cup. But yet, players are still competing their asses off for it. And they judge their whole career based on if they get one or not. Not based on how much money they make. What do you hear at the end of your career? You think of Joe Thornton, Patrick Marleau, Jerome McGinley. It wasn't, well, how much money could they have made? It was, wow, they had a great career. They're some of the best players to never win a Stanley Cup. That's the narrative. In golf, you're playing for the major. You're playing for status. You're playing for legacy. And if you have a few $1,000,000, if you have a couple 100,000 based on how good you are as a player before the tournament, I still think you're going to want it just as much because you're competitive, you're playing the sport, and you think you're better than everybody else. That's my approach with golf. They won't be able to pay as much as the Live Golf Tour. They won't because they're not backed by Saudi Arabian government. They're backed by corporations in North America that do make a lot of money, but nothing like that. It's reported that Saudi Arabia makes $1 million a day. They don't give a shit about spending that money on a golfer. But can you get the sponsors to pay some money to keep people here? I think you can. Because the PGA Tour has prestige. That is what's important. That is what is the big deal here. Shamus should be on here anytime, and we'll talk about a bunch of different things. But I want to get to baseball for a quick second before he jumps on. If he jumps on, then we'll cut her short in the baseball chat because we got all summer to talk baseball. But there are a few interesting little stories here in the baseball world. To me, the two hottest teams in baseball currently are the Atlanta Braves, the defending champions, and the New York Yankees. Braves have been red hot. They get another win last night as they walk off the San Francisco Giants late bottom of the ninth inning. They've won 17 of the last 20. They did lose 2 to the Cubs this past weekend, but they bounced back. The Braves early in the season were not getting pitching. They were not getting good starting pitching. Yet you look, and Kyle Wright's been pitching extremely well. Max Fried is pitching himself back into the Cy Young conversation. Ian Anderson is starting to find his game. The starting pitching for the Braves has been fantastic. Dansby Swanson's getting hits. Travis d'Arnaud has been catching and getting big hits. The Braves are in good shape. I still think for the Braves, Kenley Jansen picked up the victory last night. He pitched the ninth inning. He's 4-0 in the season, but he got over a 3 ERA. He gets worse as the season goes along. I would want some bullpen help later in the season because I do not trust Kenley Jansen late in the year because he'll have an injury, he'll have something where he won't be available to you in a big game. That's something I'd look into if I am the Atlanta Braves. That's where I look at them. The Yankees are extraordinary. The Yankees have 17 losses, and we are June 21st, first day of summer. I didn't think they'd be this good. I'll be the first to admit that I was wrong about the Yankees. I didn't think they'd make the playoffs. But they're playing unbelievable. Aaron Judge is and I hate MVP chat this early, but he's the front runner right now, for sure, for MVP. Their rotation, it's hard to argue it's not the best in baseball. Even better than the Dodgers with Garrett Cole, Nestor Cortez, who's been just the biggest find in baseball, Luis Severino, Jameson Tylon, and Jordan Montgomery. And the crazy thing is Garrett Cole has the highest ERA of any of their starting pitchers, and he is their ace. Josh Donaldson's playing great at third base. In his older years, he's playing extremely good at the corner. This team is loaded. And what is even more impressive to me is, yeah, you can beat bad teams. You can run into a stretch where you get the Orioles and you pummel them. But in the last week they played the Rays 3 times and they played the Blue Jays 3 times. They won 5 of those 6 games, and they should have won 6 of 6, but they blew it Sunday against the Blue Jays. And then they played the Rays again last night, and they beat them. They beat the Rays 4 straight times. The Rays, a team that should have been a lock for the postseason, but the Rays and the Blue Jays have been average to below average over the last little while. And these teams are now the Boston Red Sox have caught these two teams. The Red Sox have caught fire. They had one thing that is not being talked about that you see. Oh, the hot Red Sox, they've had a pretty easy stretch. They've gotten the Tigers a lot in there. They played the Athletics. They went out and played the Angels. So they've had an easier stretch lately, but they're winning a lot of games. They're taking advantage of that. They're getting W's. Kudos to them. The Red Sox have three guys, and this is so rare in in modern baseball here. They have three guys batting over 340. Rafael Devers, JD Martinez, and Xander Bogaerts are all batting above 340 on the season. Devers is one of my favorite players in the league. I think he's like such a great hitter. He's got all kinds of power, and he's really improved at third. But with the Rays and Blue Jays scuffling, you got in Toronto, Jose Barrios, who was labeled their ace to start the year. Again, these labels. He's a gas can. He's almost got a 6 ERA. Gives up 5 earned runs last night to the White Sox on the south side. Just beat them 8-7. But Barrios was in there too long. And the biggest problem right now for Charlie Montoyo for the Blue Jays is nobody on their staff can give them length other than Alek Manoah. Because for the first time, he didn't give them length on Saturday's start. It was his worst start of the year. But other than Manoah right now, he can't get a pitcher to go 5 innings. Yusei Kikuchi is just a flat-out problem. The guy pitches 3 2/3. He gives up four earned runs, 3 walks. The guy can't find the strike zone, and he gets beat up like a gas can. Barrios last night looked like, my partner today coming on pitching, basically. Just getting hit all over the park. And then the Rays, they can't get a win either. They can't nobody can beat the Yankees. And I don't like the Yankees winning. Okay, great. I like to see teams that nobody cares about win because I like to root for the underdog. My Guardians, they're winning. What a stupid name that is, the Guardians. I can't even root for them because the name's so bad. But I see my good friend, Tuesday co-host, is on the line, so let's bring him in. Wearing a very nice sweater, I might add, that we purchased. We purchased when I was present, so I'll take credit for the purchase. But Jay, good to see you. How are things on this beautiful first day of summer?
Things are good. Is today the first day of summer?
I learned that about 10 minutes ago. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't actually know that. Wow, that's
I think June 20th. June 21st.
Yeah, well, it finally started to feel like summer. It's still a little chilly in this June. But no, things are well. Excited to be back on here and talk a little bit with you. I love how you're repping the hat right now.
Yeah, I didn't know it was the hair was a little everywhere today, so I decided to go with the hat just prior to the show, just to keep it contained because I never know. It's like it's got a mind of its own. But I gotta ask you because I didn't really text you about this after it happened because I wanted to give you some time to breathe and marinate.
Appreciate that.
How are you feeling after your Celtics? Lost, but also that effort that they gave.
They basically took it down on the middle of the floor and said, "This is what we're going to put out tonight," and Here you go. No, appreciate your distance. Some people were not as nice as you were, so that's nice to see. But no, I'm okay. It's getting better and better. It feels like a big letdown, but yeah, as a fan, you're just disappointed. You wish the effort was there. The last 3 games, I thought, if we could have did things differently, or even if guys could have got their heads out of their asses, I really think it could have been a much different series. I've been asking people, well, I guess Celtics fans this, and I'm going to ask you this, and I want you to be as honest as possible. Okay. If the Boston Celtics were healthy, do you think they would have won, or do you think it was Golden State's to win the entire time?
Interesting. I think they would have won Game 5 for sure because Curry couldn't hit a shot. So that's a game. But I mean, Smart's not a great shooter, so he's not a great offensive player. So
But clearly,
the biggest injury for me it's an injury that I'm curious about is Tatum, because yes, he grabbed the shoulder a lot, and he usually would do it in the first 5 seconds of a game, but he's also a guy that complains ad
for
nauseum.
everything.
Yes. So I'm curious to see how injured he was, because I'm not sure if it was an injury related or just being tentative because that was his personality. But Robert being hurt them, I think, the most. I would say that, because
Yeah.
I think he gave everything he had. I thought he was one of their better players in game 6 because there wasn't many, but he blocked 4 shots. He was there. But I think if he was healthy throughout the series, that would have made a key difference, because when they won the rebounding battle and they didn't they got points in the paint, they won. And when they weren't doing that, they didn't. And he obviously plays a big part of that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He was 10, 7, and 5, 10 points, 7 rebounds, 5 blocks. So obviously he was their best player in their last game. I guess Horford also had a really good game 6.
Yeah,
but
Horford was lights out in that third quarter.
Those were two guys who were sitting on an island by themselves. Like there's no bench. And I think when we look back at the series, that's going to be the biggest thing. Golden State had 2, maybe 3 guys who were effective on the bench: Peyton, Poole, and Looney.
Yep.
Looney started to play on the bench towards the end of the series, and all those guys played really well and did their jobs off the bench, which is exactly what you needed. Grant Williams, Peyton Pritchard, and Derek White were, they were Halloween Town because they were just ghosts. And that you gotta step up and you gotta have a bench. You can't rely on your injured Robert Williams to go in there and put 20 points up. He's not going to do that. That's not his job. And Smart is too flaky. He's 20 points one game and 5 points the next game. You can't rely on him either. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I contemplated this a lot. But at the end of the day, I think even if they were healthy, I think they dropped the ball, and I think Golden State.
I think it goes 7, and then you never know.
Maybe, because the game 5, I mean, you got to think you got to win that game. Your best player is just out and down, and you still can't muster it together to even grind out like a closer game. Like I think it was a 10-point loss. Like that's, I don't know, that's pathetic in my opinion. Like I think this the sloppy ball control that happened over and over again, especially those last 2 games. Like that'll be the narrative of what they should do in their offseason, which I think we'll get to in a second. But yeah, like it was just frustrating as a fan because you'd go up and you'd see Jaylen Brown cut in, lose the ball or throw it away. And you're like, well, Udoka, where's your game plan? Like this can't be what you drew up when you were in the huddle.
Right. Yeah. 23 turnovers in game 6, which is just insane. I couldn't, like you said, Brown should never drive and kick. That's not his game. He's just shoot, but don't
shoot.
But yeah, this offseason, I mean, they're so close to winning, and you can obviously look at it either way. Golden State would be looked at, and their GM would say, well, why didn't you trade Wiseman, or why didn't you trade Kuminga for help right now? They ultimately win, so that's not the narrative. They look like geniuses. That's just how sports work. But what should the Celtics do? Is it drastic? Is something big? Is it a bench guy? Are there guys that you look at that you think they should be targeting?
I don't have anyone in particular that I'd say, but you made a great point on I think it was last podcast about finding a ball handler and someone who is just going to consistently bring the ball up. Is not going to make he will make the odd 1 or 2 turnovers a game, but that's fine. Like not dishing it out and losing it like Smart and Tatum and Brown did for much of the end of that series. So I think that's, if you're Brad Stevens, that's what you look at mainly and think this is what we need to improve on. Because your center's found. I mean, Robert Williams is he's going to be your future center for hopefully the next 8 years, and that's what Boston fans want to see. You're going to lose Al Horford. I think Al Horford's he may retire at the end of this year. I can't imagine he'd look at this run and think, oh, I can do this again, because he must have just been drained from that entire season. So I think a guard that is going to be able to be, effective in carrying it up the floor is the biggest thing for me.
That's interesting. I wonder if they look at a guy like Ricky Rubio, who might be cheap because he's coming off an injury, and he might play off the bench, but he could be your point guard in the fourth quarter, where maybe maybe Smart is on the floor, maybe he isn't. Either way, I don't think you're killing yourself not having him there. But Rubio is still, he's a pure point guard. He'll shoot that's his last resort is to shoot. But he's improved his shooting, but he's also, I think he's a great floor general and he's a great passer.
Yeah, his injuries scare me, but
Yeah.
I mean, that could, if you were to give him cheap, it's not definitely a risk by any means because you're right, he's off that injury and he's a little bit dated, but by no means is he out of gas, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love for them to bring Rondo back. That would be amazing. Just as a maybe it's just like a send off to the end of his career because I know it's kind of dwindling down for him. But there's got to be other guards too that that can be dominant floor generals. A Chris Paul like guard where you're getting solid minutes and you're going to get playmaking that's going to be consistent.
Trade for Westbrook.
Yeah. That works so well. That's a mind-boggling contract. If you ever go look up that contract, anyone listening, or if you want to see getting paid for doing absolutely nothing, he might be the definition under Google for that one.
Do you think there's any? I mean, the media loves putting the Knicks and the Lakers in any kind of headline because people, I guess, find it entertaining and will read it. I still don't get that, but Kyrie Irving and the Nets, they do seem like they're going to part. Is there any way he ends up with either of those two teams that you can see via a sign and trade or however it gets done?
I couldn't see the LeBron one. I don't think he'd ever want to play back with LeBron. And that'd be a lot for his ego to take a hit. But the New York one's interesting. I mean, obviously you're going to have a rivalry there. Like, hey,
right.
I didn't like you guys. I'm going to jump over to the bridge. I'm going to jump over this bridge and, play with your mortal enemies essentially. But I can't see it. For me personally, I think he's going maybe to, I don't know, like a mid-market level team. It's not going to, like, a Brooklyn's just too big for Kyrie Irving, and that was just foolishness all year long. I realize that some of that's out of his hand, but still, like, he definitely feeds into that.
Yeah, I've heard people say, well, you could trade Anthony Davis for Kyrie, and I'm like, oh, Jesus. Problem for different reasons. But I don't know what you do with Westbrook then, because he would just be sitting there and what you just tell him to go home. Like you can't have him, LeBron, and Kyrie on the same floor because I know that's not going to work because they all want the ball.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you'd almost have to be a Westbrook Anthony Davis combo, but that just sounds, you're right. That just sounds like two problems coming your way, and you're just getting rid of one problem.
But that would be like, I think any team that signs him to a max contract is crazy because I don't trust him to buy me, Tricks Are for Kids cereal, let alone show up and play 82 games. COVID or not, I mean, the guy just finds he just won't show up sometimes because he's just not in the mood, and that would scare the hell out of me as a business owner.
Yeah, he lives on his own time. So,
yes.
I mean, if there's a team that would need a big guy right
it's
now,
the Knicks. I mean, they'll do it because they're stupid.
Yeah, pretty pathetic franchise.
Yeah. If there is a team, it's the Knicks, I think Sacramento is not that stupid, but maybe I'm giving them too much credit. Speaking of Sacramento, they picked 4th. That's Thursday night, the draft. I mean, it just seems like the season's over, and now we get the draft. Who do you think is going to go 1? Who do you like early up in the draft?
Everyone's hot on Holmgren, and I think he's a good player. He's not really projected. Like, everywhere I've looked, he's not projected to go number 1, but because he's brought such a presence and he's cocky, which I think some people like,
right?
Calling himself the future best player in the league. He just scares me a little bit because he's just too similar to Porzingis, where he's long, he's super skinny, but he can shoot. And you're just looking at Porzingis' career and thinking, okay, that's a dumpster fire. But Holmgren's a better defensive player than Porzingis will ever be. I'll give him that to credit him. But if I'm going for a more reliable option, I think I do take Jabari Smith. I think he's going to be a 2010 guy. He's going to get better every year, I think, for the next 5 years. And if I'm Orlando, I don't want no more nonsense. Like, you've got to get your franchise turned around, or it's at this point it's just embarrassing.
Yeah, I think they'll take Jabari. I think it'll go Jabari, Chet, and then it'll be Paolo. And oddly enough, I like Paolo the best. But Chet is so I like him to OKC. I think it's a really good fit for him because they do got some good young players there, and he'll have no pressure to win, which is good. I guess all these top teams, he wouldn't have much pressure to win. Orlando, nobody will even know he's in the league because nobody watches Orlando. But OKC, he can play with SGA. He can play with Dort. You know, they got some good players there. So I think if he goes to OKC and if he has a good start to his career, that's the team I look at the three at the top that I think are the closest to being relevant again when it comes to winning. They got all those picks. You like to think they could trade for a good player eventually and try to get better. So whoever has that second pick ultimately, I think, has a big decision because I think they're closer to being relevant winning again than Orlando.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. Their young guys look really, really good this year. And it's an exciting time to be an OKC fan because, I mean, you haven't had much since obviously KD and James Harden. And so, this is a trying time. Is there any sneaky picks that you saw? I really like Shaden Sharp from Kentucky. I think I was really impressed with him in this year's March Madness. And he's not probably going to go top 5, but I think he'll be an effective player wherever he lands.
He'll go high for sure. There's a player from Baylor, and
the hair guy.
What's that?
The guy with the hair.
The hair, yeah. He is a pain in the ass, like times 100. He's like a gnat, and he's gonna go in the first round. And I don't know what he's gonna be as like how you project him, but he might be another Draymond Green type where he's just a pain. He pisses you off, and he'll get assists. He'll get a few points, but I like him a lot. If I'm looking at pure talent, Jaden Ivey intrigues me. He might go as high as 4. He might drop some because he did say last week he's not super intrigued on playing in Sacramento, but who is?
Welcome to the club, yeah.
At Purdue, he's a great shooter. He's not afraid to shoot, which is a big thing coming out of college. But he's a guy that they had a good team there. They had a good season this year, and he's a guy that could run an offense down the line. So I like Jaden Ivey from Purdue.
Yeah. And I'm loving, like, I don't know why, but anytime I see a guy that's played in the G League and he's up high, it's intriguing because, like, obviously he's got experience playing against grown men and a more relevant a more relevant game to the NBA than it is from the NCAA.
Right. Yeah, and there's also that Mathurin. He's a Canadian kid, so he's another. Canada's got a lot of players coming in the draft playing basketball. You look at Lou Dort, SGA there. You got Mathurin that's coming out. Andrew Wiggins just won a title. So Canada's starting to get a footprint. Obviously, you got Jamal Murray in the NBA. And if we never qualify for the Olympics, I don't think we'll be a slouch team. And say we give us another decade, I think we will be a top team because we're just producing a lot of great talent in the NBA right now.
Yeah, 100% agree. Got to develop those guys, and hopefully one day it'll pay off. It's a long drought.
Yeah, it's been a minute. Canada got to the World Cup in soccer, so we can get to the Olympics in basketball. I have faith that we will eventually get there.
What's Kelly Olynyk going to do when he's not making Team Canada anymore and just?
Yeah, I think that's when he knows it's time to retire. Like he might become a co-coach because he's there so often. Him and Jay Triano can coach together, just bond over experiences. But yeah, old Kelly Olynyk always shows up. You gotta love that about him. He's always there, first in line for the layups. But what'd you make of the game last night, Avs and Ning?
Oh, man, I thought I was reminiscing over a Rangers matchup that happened not too long ago where Rangers fans got pretty excited thinking, oh, we just snapped the curse. You know, we beat them back-to-back games. And what happens? You go out and lay an egg. And if you're Colorado, you got to think, okay, we got to shut this down right away. But Tampa played like they like they knew they had to. That was experience. That game too was a write-off. Obviously, I mean, you're done basically halfway through the second period. And they slowed the game down, which was appropriate. And then Sorelli scores that huge goal in the rush, and it's not about how it looks; it's just about basically getting it done. And I thought that's what that goal was about. But yeah, some sloppy play from Colorado. You look at the Nick Paul goal. I mean, that was bad play behind the net. Pops out in front, and he tucks it in. And yeah, I just thought Colorado was one step slower than they normally are last night.
Yeah, I agree. And Tampa just had an easier time getting through the neutral zone than they did the first. Like they had no time in the first two games. But again, Stamkos, Kucherov, Palat, they're so important to that team because with Point being out, they're limited offensively. Maroon got a goal last night in Perry, but you can't expect them to score a goal in the next couple of games. I think if they're going to win this series, it's going to be because of the back end and that top line to score goals because Sorelli has such a tough – he's stopping McKinnon. Like, that's a tough job to stop Zibanejad. Like, that's not an easy task. And on the other hand, McKinnon, show up, buddy, because this is – you said you wanted to get here. I think he's been average the first three games, and I'm being nice. But I think Game 4 is vital for you mentioned it for Colorado. They need – it's almost a must win for both teams because I think Colorado needs to win Game 4 because if it's Game 5, there's gonna be a lot of guys in that building that have tight ass cheeks when they're in Colorado, and you won't hear the crowd singing all the small things. I'll say that. You'll say, "What's my age again?" and where's the door for Game 5.
I love the level up song with after they kill a penalty, they get the Mario level up song.
Yeah.
Man, I love since they started that up. But no, yeah, I absolutely agree with that. You got to treat it as like it's a do or die situation. Colorado's never been on their heels, which I mean that's good for them. But a little pressure is also going to mend you and make you a little bit better also. So yeah, I mean McKinnon's got to play better. Landeskog's played really well. Mikko Rantanen's played really well. You've got your big four. You're the only guy who's not been in consistently putting it in. And I don't think he's at a goal yet. I could be wrong on that. I don't think he's got Vasilevsky. But yeah, you've got to pump it in and get at least one. And, coming out hot in the next game, I think is going to be important. That I do feel the Nichushkin goal that was called back last night was definitely a mood changer. Like I think they would have been up 2-1. And then Tampa scored late in the first. So, yeah, it's interesting, but I mean, you got to play with the highs and lows as well, right?
Yeah, you got to love that offside rule. I'll tell you that. You got to love the challenge because I love it. I love that it takes 10 minutes, but that was.
It's hard to watch. It's like, okay, like I can see the white coming on the other side. Like, should be clear cut, that this was offside, but did you feel the other way? Did you think it was onside?
No, I thought it was offside from the second I saw it, and I was just thinking, why is this taking 10 minutes? Like, why? I flicked the station. I'm like, okay, I'm not sitting here listening to watch them look at this little screen 85 times. I just can't do it anymore. So I decided to change the channel. So yeah, I thought today we could talk about our top athletes of 2022 so far, because we're about halfway through the year and there's been a lot of guys that have had some really good years so far. And I thought, I didn't give you kind of a number. I just said, name the guys that you want to go through. So how many guys did you come up with?
Oh, I only have 4.
Yeah, I got 3, so we're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
One will be a toss away for me then. I picked them all from different sports. I don't know if you had. Okay. Yep. Yeah. But yeah, I can throw my first one out there because
kick us off.
So I had Roman Josi as my 4.
Okay.
50 games in 2022, 67 points, average 26 minutes a night. He was a beast. I mean, Mikhail Makar was walking up the stage to grab his Norris Trophy, and Roman Josi met him on the way up and said, "I'll take that." It's impressive. Like in my opinion, he he could have been up there for the Hart. He played that well at the end of the year. That point streak was amazing, and he wielded a team that I don't want to call them average. I think they have good potential, but for the most part, they weren't doing anything too special to a playoff spot. And a lot of credit to him. He's got to be up there. He's my fourth guy, I guess, out of them. Out of the bunch.
He's a special player. He kind of had a Taylor Hall type year when he was with New Jersey, where I don't think he carried that team for a long period of time, where that team is not that great, and he was just otherworldly, and he was their top player, but just being a defenseman, putting up those type of points. So, no, I agree. He's a special player, and he's doing great things in Nashville. You can name your next guy if you want.
Okay, I have Cole's favorite golfer, Scotty Scheffler. He's my number 3. Really? Okay. Yeah. I mean, not much to say. I'll ring off the stats, and you can ring off the intangibles here. This guy, second in the U.S. Open, won the Masters. He got cut from the PGA, but he's got 2 wins already this year, and he's got 4 second places. I mean, he's just rattling it off, and he's a 25-year-old. Kid, he's my age, our age, and he's been just dominating a man's sport, I
think he looks about a decade older than us, though.
He's 35. Yeah, he's 35 in the face, but he's 25 at heart. I don't understand it, but I don't know. Maybe all that pressure that you have being nasty on the greens, but what makes him so special, Dougie? I mean, you watch him more than I do.
Yeah, he's just his heart. Not much. He's not good at. Like he can drive the ball far. He's got good iron play. He's a great putter. That's the best thing I can say about him is his putting. He's just a lethal. I mean, you watched him Sunday. He was -4 in the first 9, and I'm just like, Jesus, he's making this course look like chicken feed. And he ran into a few tough holes, and he was like you said, a shot off, and so close to it, even going into a playoff. He missed that putt by a little bit, as did your boy Billy Zaltz. And it was close, but he's a great putter. He's proven he can win in the clutch situations. Winning a Masters, only playing there for his 3rd time, which is rare. Normally take a number of visits to win there. He is the number 1 player in the world. He's passed Jon Rahm. He's passed Morikawa to get that distinction. So it's hard to – I think he's already won the PGA Tour Player of the Year. We still got a long way to go, but I have a hard time believing somebody else is going to surpass him in winning it. So he's taken over the golf world as the best player.
That's the thing. We have so much. The season's not over, and we do have quite a ways to go. But it's already felt like his name's engraved in that title, which is strange because, it's great. Golf's at a great spot. That last weekend was really, really fun. Watched a potential playoff. Big Zal, he hit a couple putts during the day, but when it comes down to it, he didn't hit the biggest one. So, he's 25, Scheffler's 25, and Fitzpatrick, who won, is 27. So that's a good place where golf wants to be, is some young competitive guys who are kind of bringing out the best in each other.
Absolutely. So I had Scheffler as well. So we're right there. So who do you have next?
On my next, I have Luka Doncic.
Ooh, I like
your boy, the Matador. Yeah, he had a great second. I wouldn't say second half, but he had a great 2022. 30 points, 9 assists, 8 rebounds. 10 rebounds, and he was just a beast. I mean, he wielded a team that was, in my opinion, average. Who I thought without him they'd be a lottery team, in my opinion. And he was really good, and on top of that, he gets into a conference final, which they haven't been since 2011, so almost a decade ago. He's so special. I've called it on this podcast before. He's going to win an MVP sooner or later. Dallas just needs to get him another big guy to play with, and they're going to be a competitive team for years to come.
He's special. Like, I don't know if he's LeBron 2.0 or if he's Larry Bird 2.0. He's awesome to watch, and he's like a pit bull. And if he can come into camp in shape next year, he might win the MVP. Because if he can start the year hot, and he gets better as the season goes on, so that might help him. But I totally agree. He's gonna win an MVP before it's all over. I think he'll be an NBA champion before his career is over as well. I didn't think of Doncic, but he was spectacular. I had Rafael Nadal.
Okay.
And Rafa has lost 3 times in 2022. That's it. He's won 43 matches. He's 43-3 on the season. He's won the first 2 majors of the year. He's now 2 up on Federer and on Djokovic for the most majors of all time. And he beat Djokovic to win his 14th French Open title, which is unheard of. I don't think that'll ever be broken. I don't think anybody's been more dominant on one surface, just on any sport, than Nadal is on clay. Like, that's just crazy what he does. But to me, he's jumped into the GOAT conversation. I think he is the GOAT of tennis. Djokovic might finish with more, but Nadal he's not everybody's cup of tea, but neither am I. So I feel like I have to jump on that board with him and just he's had a phenomenal year. He's 35 years old too. He's not a spring chicken or 36 when it comes to tennis, and he continues to play like he's 21.
Yeah, I'd like to scratch my last pick and maybe replace. I didn't realize he was 40. I didn't know 44 wins was the old number this year. That's pretty impressive. But yeah, I mean, still dominating the sport at that age. That's just wild. Yeah, and like you said about the French Open, that's nuts. 14. That I think we could put a future on that for the old grandbabies, or my grandbabies at least. That'll never be broken. No one's gonna even. I don't think anyone would hit 10, to be honest.
I don't think so either. No, yeah. I don't even know if anybody will come within half of it.
Yeah,
if somebody would get
just
7.
So rare. Yeah,
it's so hard to win. It's like the majors with Tiger and Jack. Like, you're like, can I get, like, Koepka's got 3, and I'm not sure he's gonna win another one. Like, it's so crazy.
Yeah, so rare. Yeah, that makes my last one kind of look bad. I was gonna really pump this guy's tires, but I don't know if he looks as good anymore. And I'm eager to see who you have for number 1. But
okay.
You were ripping on them a little bit when I entered the pod, so I got to be a little wary here. But he's their ace for the Tampa Bay Rays, Shane McClanahan.
Oh, I like that.
Right?
Yeah, he's playing well.
Yeah, even if his team is not doing the greatest at times, he still plays individually well, which is great. 14 games this year, 1.81 ERA. He's got 7 wins, 3 losses. He's only walked 16 guys all year, which whenever I see that stat, it's just wild to me. And he's leads the league in strikeouts with 113, with a whip of 0.85, walks per hit. Inning pitched. Yeah, walks per inning pitched. Yeah, he's just had this wild year, and I want to say that I knew who he was before the beginning of the year, but I didn't. I've maybe seen his name a couple times on the scorecard, but for the most part, he's just astonishing this year, and he's probably not in the Cy Young even race at this point. I think there's a couple other guys, but I think he'll assert himself there. He's young. He's only 24, 25 years old, but he's certainly a special player. And kudos to Tampa for being. They just
they find talent.
They just hit on all their picks, and they develop guys properly. And it seems to be the way when you have a low budget like that, you just kind of pick up the weeds and you really keep the guys you know are going to be special.
He's great. He's practically unhittable. Like, he's got such a curveball that's so hard to hit. And I mean, he only gave up a few hits to the Yankees last. He had another good start last night. They just couldn't get any runs to help him. But yeah, he's a special pitcher. I like that one because he's a guy that, McClanahan could be in that mix. Manoah has had a really coming out party for the Jays.
Absolutely.
Tony Gonsolin's been great for your Dodgers. He doesn't have a loss yet this year. He's 8-0.
Musgrove is good too.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of good pitchers that are having some spectacular years that you wouldn't expect. Exactly. They're not Kershaw. They're not guys that are household names. My last one he's a great player, and I do have a love for him. It's Aaron Donald of the Los Angeles Rams.
Okay.
And twofold. Number one, he won a Super Bowl. He made the play on he made the biggest play. Last play of the game, he broke up the pass on the 4th down to prevent a field goal to tie the game from Joey Big Stick. So he made that play. Then season's over, parties at the parade, having a good time. He's living his best life, as the young kids say. And then he gets the most guaranteed money in the history of the NFL for a defensive player. So he wins the Super Bowl 3-time, it's a great year, and then he gets the bag. So you win, and then you get paid. To me, Aaron Donald's having a pretty damn good 2022 so far, and he won the Super Bowl in February, gets paid in June, and he's on a team that could win the Super Bowl again next year. So pretty good 2022 for Aaron Donald.
Oddly enough, if I had a 5, I was going to pick your boy Burrow.
Oh, really? Yeah. He did.
I would have picked Joey Burrow. I think he had a great 2022 as well. I mean, that run, obviously, but he also started to light it up at the end of the year. So, but yeah, no, Aaron Donald's well deserved. That was an incredible run. Just funny that you were on the opposite end of that. So yeah, there's some guys there, crybaby OBJ. It's good for him. Is he coming back, or is he done this year?
I think he obviously got the torn ACL, so he's going to be out to at least October, November. I think he re-signs with the Rams when he's back healthy. Okay. That's my prediction anyway, but I think he'll be a Ram again. Yeah. Definitely not Cleveland. He won't be a Brown again.
Yeah. It's going to be an interesting year. It's going to be a roller coaster for us Browns fans. I think we're just going to be holding on for dear life, to be honest.
Yeah, because Deshaun settled 24 of the 24 lawsuits today, but 4 of them are still going to court. So it doesn't. I read it, and I think people are like, okay, so they're all settled. He's gonna be able to play. I'm like, not quite. No, not that. That's not how it works. Still got 4. Yeah.
What happens if he's found guilty? I mean, he's probably gonna pay some hefty fines and do some damage. But will the league suspend him for 8 games or 7 games or something?
I think he'll be suspended for the whole year. That's
if regardless, or if he found guilty.
Regardless, yeah, because say he doesn't go to court, and he's scheduled to go to court in a couple of months. It's hard to play. It's hard to play a guy that could be, found guilty. They've had enough of these situations with, obviously Orenthal James and with Ray Rice, and they've screwed up enough of these. I mean, there's too many of these to even count, but they screwed up enough of them. So I think they'll go heavier than lighter when it comes to suspension.
Okay. That's interesting.
But yeah, Deshaun and Baker doesn't want to play there. So,
well, how could you though? Like, hey, we told you we're going to come back, and oh yeah, by the way, we're bringing in a brand new toy that's going to take your spot. Like, I understand the frustration from him.
But I'd rather play for the Browns than play for Carolina. You have a better chance to win, better chance to showcase yourself.
Yeah, no, he's salty. He can do commercials in Carolina. There's some nice sun down there, I heard.
Yeah, no progressive though, or regressive. Maybe that's what he should be. He should be promoting. His play is often.
He could take a gamble on himself, and what if he starts to shine down there? I mean, that's another route too.
He might, that could happen, where he just lights it up and he gets to pick his next location. That would be best case scenario, obviously, for Baker Mayfield Jr. the third. Memorial Cup, we're going Thursday. You the big shooter with the tickets, and you were nice enough to ask me.
Yeah, no, I mean, I thought who would enjoy this more than my good friend. And I mean, we talked about it a couple weekends ago when we were together anyways. So I wanted to make it happen. Unfortunately, not going to get to watch St. John play. But yeah, I mean, happy they won last night. That's a good. I mean, you know more than me about these teams. I know, to me, on paper, Edmonton's the best team.
Yeah,
they're a powerhouse. But I don't feel like in this tournament sometimes the powerhouses always win. So. Who in your case is your favorite for this? I mean,
I have Edmonton winning, but I had Hamilton, Edmonton in the final. That was my thought before, and Hamilton was just that game was horrible last night. But they were out to lunch. I don't know what happened before, if they all had shellfish sandwiches or what, but
The fog got to them.
They got the fog. That could be it. It could be the fog, because whenever I roll through, I never feel the same. But McTavish was horrible. That whole team, just the mistakes. But like you said, kudos to St. John. You haven't played in a month and a half, and you just beat the best team in Ontario. That's all you care. You got to hope you're better. They play Wednesday against they got Edmonton, so you're up for that, because they obviously be on a back-to-back, but that's your toughest opponent. But we get to see Shawinigan and Hamilton, so we'll get to see McTavish up close and personal. We'll get to see Maverick Bork, a player I love from Shawinigan.
Yes,
so
Xavier
should be a fun game on Thursday night.
Yeah, looking forward to coming down. It only took a Mem Cup for you to finally visit, but that's fine. No, you've been here before, I know, but looking forward to it. I think it's exciting, and the vibe in the city has been really good. We were out Saturday night, and they had a lot going on, so really glad that the city put money into it and really went all out with this, because they needed this.
No, it's good. Yeah, with COVID and everything, and to get New Brunswick with this, and then the World Juniors in a couple of months, I think it's awesome for tourists and for money coming into New Brunswick. That's what we need right now, and
absolutely,
that's awesome. But what's on the docket tonight? Watching anything? Watching a movie, show, anything?
Yeah, I got a little bit of schoolwork to do, but other than that, what am I into right now? I got. Well, you know me, I have 50 shows on the go, and I'm probably not going to finish all of them tonight. So maybe tuck away at one or two. Geez, I don't know. Yeah, give me something to watch right now. It can be movie or show, and I'll coin toss.
Okay, I won't let you start a new show, because I know you watch too many of them. But if you pick a movie, I watched Hustle over the weekend.
Yeah, for good things.
Adam Sandler's movie on Netflix. It's actually very good. It's actually very good. I enjoyed it. The NBA players are surprisingly, especially Anthony Edwards. No surprise, he's just fantastic at everything. But he's great in the movie. He's like a villain, and he plays it extremely well. But I like the movie a lot. I would recommend. I would say watch it. I would recommend it. That people watch Hustle, because it was good. I finished Ozark over the weekend as well. I finished Barry over the weekend. I got some shows watched this past weekend.
Yeah, I guess when sports starts to wind down, you're just killing all the rest of your shows. Were you happy with the Ozark ending, or was it?
No, I was happy with it. Yeah, I was
that's
happy.
Good.
It was
As someone who hasn't finished it yet, I'm glad to hear that.
No, we'll talk about it when you finish it. But I thought it was a great story ending. And what I mean by that is how the show starts. I think when you write a good TV show, you're not writing for, this is going to sound bad, but you're not writing for the audience. You're writing for the great story and how you close it from where you start to where you get to the end of it. And I think they did a good job of doing that.
Okay. I'm looking forward to that, and I will check out Hustle. You're not the only person to tell me that's been a really good thing. Anytime you see Adam Sandler and Netflix in the same sentence, it always gets a little risky. But I'm glad they pulled this one off.
Yeah, Rotten Tomatoes has even loved it. I think he's got like a 93. Hustle's got right now. It's his highest ever. So good for him.
Nice. I'll be checking it out.
No, I'll get your schoolwork done and block off a couple hours for Hustle tonight and throw that on.
Yes, I will. And I look forward to seeing you on Thursday, my friend.
Yes, we'll see you Thursday night.
Okay. See you later.
Right. Take care. There's Shamus. Always fun to have Shamus on Tuesdays. And yeah, be joining him on Thursday night to watch the Memorial Cup, heading up to St. John for that. We got Game 4, Stanley Cup Final tomorrow night. So we're going to preview that. We'll talk about the Memorial Cup. We got Shawinigan versus Edmonton tonight. We'll talk some baseball and any other storylines across the sports world tomorrow. So we'll see you then. Take care. This is To The Point.